here. Do that.
We don't have engineers, Hobbs. We have to do it ourselves.
That's all right. I would be too.
Yeah.
I'm winging it. This is my first Zoom deal, so.
Awesome. All right.
Awesome. Okay, I am going to get ready to go live on Facebook here. We'll see if it's going to allow me to go. Share on a page, and that is it. Preparing the live stream, it claims.
All right.
And I am going to kill that air conditioner. And here we go.
Turn your camera back on, Tom.
Certainly will.
Yeah.
Go live anyway. You see us live yet? Let's hope you do. The meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Welcome to 3D Politics. I'm Tom McKay, your fantastic host. This is a special episode thanks to Brian Hobbs out there in Newkirk, Oklahoma, the mayor out there, and we get a chance to interview him. I've got David Vann with me. We are waiting, hopefully late in the show. We'll also see David Oldham, but Brian Hobbs, thanks for showing up. It's the first time you and I have ever met. Zoom is the new reality, the new normal, we call it. So thanks for coming on and suffering the technological advance. Were they nice to you in the waiting room? That's a joke.
In the green room.
Yeah, the green room, the virtual green room. Glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit of a story about how you became mayor, and then what is the issues that we're talking about tonight?
Well, how I became mayor? Well, I ran an election, and here I sit.
Wow, I thought it'd be so much more exciting.
But what's happening? I mean, with all the COVID and these things.
Brian, you're gonna have to kill your audio in the background there. What is the issues that we're talking about tonight? Let's start repeating us.
Well, how I became mayor? Well, I ran an election.
Brian.
Here I sit.
You don't have to kill your sound in the back. I thought it'd be so much more exciting.
You know what? I think that's me.
Is that Dan?
What's happening? I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna have to turn that down.
Brian, you're gonna have to kill your audio in the background. Got to blame it on Brian. You know, he's in charge.
You guy blame me.
Somebody's got to be in fault here. Is that it? Brian?
We may have taken care of it.
Very good, Van. Thank you for fixing that. Brian, I'm sorry about that again. Here we struggle through the technology. But so you ran an election out there, and now how long have you been mayor in Newkirk?
Oh, about, I guess a little over a year now. There was supposed to be another election this month, but it got for one of the board members, and it got kicked back to June because of all this going on. So
I see. And then, so is this your, I've got Oldham is there.
Yeah, bump me out of the meeting on the logo, and let's bring Oldham in.
Let's see, remove that guy and Oldham admit. Oh, sorry, I almost got rid of you. Remove. There you go. There's David Oldham. Brian Hobbs, you know David Oldham.
I know David.
There you go. So we were just talking about how Brian has been mayor in Newkirk, Oklahoma for about a year. And I was asking also, Brian, first time politician, or have you done politics before?
Well, I've been involved in politics. It's my first elected position. I ran a pretty contentious House race. There's David Oldham. Hey, David.
His hand. Get your hand out of the way, Oldham.
I'm still messing with stuff. I'm trying to figure out a better way to hear you. I can barely hear.
We may
We're all, anyway, it's been pretty interesting. I'll say that since I became mayor, we've had a tornado, which I mean, not, my town's never actually seen a direct hit. We've had flooding, which
Wow.
we've really never seen. Now we've got a pandemic. We've had an earthquake, pretty substantial earthquake in the last year. It's been quite the year for her.
Contention in the race that you were mentioning. There was some contention in the race.
Oh,
Contentious.
no, I won my mayor race with about 80%, but I ran a state house race before that in 18 against a house leadership member, and it was a pretty contentious race. It was a good race.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. All right. And so now with the new the guidelines, you're in a significantly powerful position as mayor. I learned when I ran for mayor in 2016, a lot of power in appointing, not so much what you know, but who you know. You can create task force, et cetera, at the point of focus of tax money and community attitudes. So,
Hey, Tom.
yeah.
I'm going to stop you here for a second. Your voice is clipping out really bad, and it's lacking some continuity. You want to check that out. If I could ask Hobbs while you're checking that. Brian Hobbs, I
Yes.
just got a press release from an attorney, Frank Urbanek from Oklahoma City, and he is taking a federal case to the Western Oklahoma federal courts against the city of Guthrie. I think you're a little familiar with what Guthrie's tried to do.
Yes.
Was Guthrie following your city's lead?
No, they were kind of off on their own on that. I was very clear from the start in my city of my position on it, and that I didn't want to see any people's rights infringed throughout this. And luckily, I talked to some of the folks in the highest levels of the state government, and I was clear about that with them as well. And that I didn't intend to shut our town down completely. I wasn't going to create problems where there were none, and we haven't had any problems. I mean, unfortunately we have had one death, and it was a friend of mine. We're not entirely sure how she got infected or where, but I was fortunate enough. A couple of days before she went to the hospital, I was able to bring her some chicken noodle soup. And she was wanting chicken noodle soup, and so I feel good that I got to give her some kind of kindness before she went to the hospital. And unfortunately, she passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's a great loss for our community. For her, her name was Shine Adams. She's a great woman. She politically, she and I'd been kind of in the trenches together on issues, and so she was definitely a good asset, a good friend, and she will be missed.
Yeah. So what, in your opinion, is the latitude a municipality has in times such as these that are not a national, it's not a tornado, it's not a riot, but it's still a health issue?
Right.
What do you feel the latitude is that a city has?
Well, the city can do a lot of things. What I can tell you what I did, I guess a lot of this stuff, when we talk about latitudes, we decided in the courts after the fact, and I salute Mr. Urbanek for doing what he did. Thank you. It takes people like him who are willing to put it out there to protect our constitutional rights, even when it's uncomfortable. I had written a letter several weeks ago kind of about this very thing, and the constitutional rights weren't put in there for good times. They were put in there for good times, bad times, and all times. And those rights don't dissolve because it's people are scared. That's exactly why they were put in there. Because if those rights can be determined by the level of fear or the response to something, then they're not rights. They're help me out, David. They're dictated.
They're wishes.
What's that?
They're wishes.
Yes. If they can be taken, then they're not really rights. And I think that we got to be very careful. And that's I'm in a small town. I'm a mayor. I use the voice that I have when I can to try to instill that and to lead where I can. I realize that my platform isn't as large as many other people's, unfortunately, but I do what I can. So
But Brian, wouldn't you say though the simplicity of maybe not a big town, but still a city nonetheless, there is a clarity with which a city functions that maybe a more complicated metropolitan area might have a little bit more muddy, murky, sense of things.
Well, sense of things. Well, and that's again, that's why these things were transcribed on parchment.
Yes.
So that there would be something to remind us that it doesn't matter the size of your town, your state, or your nation. These rights are enshrined. This is not something that's willy-nilly and can be moved around. That's the whole point of the whole concept of our government.
One of the I think we've seen the power of the governor and the power of mayors all across the state and nation is as this thing typically mayors are like a soundtrack. You don't really hear from the mayor. You hearing that crunch?
You're garbling, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So let me jump in here, Brian.
Doing it anyway.
Brian, what have you had a chance to talk to your city's council, your legal counsel, and talk to them about these things? Because the various cities, I'm thinking the various cities should be liable for class action lawsuits and things like that from the way they handled things and the deprivation of rights that they've caused so many people. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, I had a city meeting the Monday before last, and I tried to constitute what I had previously said, and in my position. Of course, I'm the mayor, I'm the figurehead, but I have a council as well, and they have equal voices to mine. But I just pointed out that that I don't want to see these things happen. I said, well, I've been asked personally, locally, why is our country club closed? We want to go. We got a little 9-hole golf course, and the older folks like to go out and hit a ball around. Well, how is that going to affect? But we now see after the press release today that it's actually better to be out in the sunlight.
Yes.
Right? So and here we are telling everybody to stay cooped up in their home. So and the sad truth is in events like these, people just don't want to say the sad truth, and that's that we just don't know. So we start parroting information, whether it's right or wrong, and then everybody starts parroting the same information, and then it becomes fact or law, and it's not necessarily even true. And
I'm going to try to get my question in here.
Yeah.
Am I live again?
You're good.
The point I was trying to get to was that typically mayors and governors are on like a soundtrack of a movie. You don't notice it until there's something wrong. With all of the emergency actions taken, all of a sudden the power of the governor was raised and the power of the mayors was also raised during the pandemic. That's the point I was trying to make, is that you feel like you're a small town guy, but your power was increased once all of the emergency stuff kicked in.
That's true. That's true. But to me, it didn't change anything. These are still my people, my friends. I'm just doing the best job that I can to protect them.
More pressure on you, though. More pressure on you from your friends and such.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it hasn't been too bad on my end. I hope that my constituents know that I'm looking out the best that I can for their health and for their constitutional rights at the same time. Those aren't adverse to each other.
Yeah. And
you can do both.
Yeah.
This leads to another question of mine, and that is, what upholds these other mayors, not like you,
right?
Like in Veneta and Guthrie and Tulsa and Oklahoma City,
Bristol.
Well, you name the town. Tacoma, Sand Springs. They're all doing Broken Arrow, where they declared these businesses non-essential. Made people into non-people, basically. No, you're not allowed to work. Only some people are allowed to work. Where and what would our recourse be to those things? But where do they find such, excuse for power? Not the excuse, but where are they trying to justify this?
From what I've heard, they're digging deep and trying to use some kind of riot act to justify this, even though it's not a riot or even a potential riot. So if you look across the state, most people have tried to do the best that they can. I mean, you don't see people out there contaminating people intentionally. I mean, it's people are trying to do the best that they can. And in my position, from where I'm standing from, you're asking me the question, where do they derive this power? I don't believe they have that power. I don't believe I have that power. And so therefore, I directed, whatever I could to say that we don't have that power. It's not my place to tell a private business and a taxpaying citizen whether they can do business or not.
Sure.
That's crazy to me. I mean, that is not the government's place. And now here's the thing. And I actually had a business owner call me yesterday that's not even from my town to ask my opinion on it. And I told them, this is between you and your customer. If your customer, what I said was, I don't think you ever should have been shut down personally. I said, now, having said that, if your wife, happens to be a beautician, and if nobody comes to her shop, it may not benefit her to be there all day waiting, but that's between her and the customer, not the government. And
Right.
so, I don't believe that they have those rights, and I think that they should all be sued personally. Because where does this stop? If we allow this to go on and it goes unchecked, it's going to be worse next time and next time and next. Every time we give up rights, you never see the government, you never see the legislature sitting around saying, how can we restore everybody's rights? Not very often. I mean, we had some brave souls do it with constitutional carry in Oklahoma, but, which was 100 years overdue. But anyway, every once in a while you'll see that, but 9 times out of 10, it's going the other way. And
in one of the conferences they had, I think it was with Bynum, it might have been national, but someone said, we can overshoot with caution, lock everything down because we can always bring it back. And I think the point you're making, Brian, is no, we can't always bring it back. Once we overshoot with caution and lose those rights, you can't bring it back.
Well, and on another note, to add to what you just said is, well, I hope that he's whipping out his pocketbook to finance all these businesses that he bankrupted. And because apparently he's got the all-knowing, wielding the magic ring, and he can just will this into being that these people get their businesses back. And that shows you that he has no consideration for his constituents at all.
Well, it also shows you that he banked on the collective investment of getting everybody to a community involved investment in all these crown jewel properties, the BOK, the PAC, the library, all these fascistic entities. And the first thing they do is close down the gathering place that we all bought. They pre-ration. They don't just wait and then ration. Before there was even an emergency, they kept us from going to take advantage of the things we bought. They pre-ration in advance of anything. So it was a bad system to begin with Bynum.
Well, and I've yet to hear a good explanation as to how shutting someone down from going into a restaurant is any different than shutting them down from the 1,000 people a day who travel through Walmart and handle the same property over and over. How one is more dangerous than the other. I have yet to get a good answer there. And it would appear that we're propping some businesses up and shutting others down. And that, I mean, that's almost Stalinistic in itself.
Well, let me ask you something, Brian. Obviously, your city operates on a budget. Much of that comes from sales tax, which I'm sure takes quite a hit. How do you recover as far as core functions of city government, the things that, we do agree we want some government oversight of?
It's funny that you should bring that up, David, because I had actually shared a post on Facebook because I went out to our local grocery store and the shelves were stocked. People were going about their business as usual. They were keeping a safe distance, just using common sense. And
sure, I
actually posted that on Facebook. And when I talked to Matt Pinnell, our lieutenant governor, he had actually said that he'd referenced that post and said if more people would, communities would behave like this, and then we would have far less problems in the state. But here the kicker is, I think by making that post that went kind of viral, it actually incited more people to shop in Newkirk. So I think our sales revenues are actually up.
Really?
True story.
Now,
True story.
how much? Now, you told me the golf course there, the country club's kind of on an honor system. If I want to take my wife and maybe my son will go play some golf, what's a fair amount that we should be paying if we want to come on up?
Well, I think you're actually supposed to be a member, and I can't remember. I'm sorry, David, I can't remember how much that is. I don't think it's much. If don't quote me, but I think it's like 35.
So when are you going to invite me as your guest to play golf then?
Well, whenever we get some free time, buddy, I guess.
Like I said, there's a lot of pressure being mayor, Brian.
Okay, I thought it was a municipal course.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Well, great.
So I got a question, David Oldham. How is it that we will handle these repercussions between the business owners that Brian Hobbs knows and the government that's infringing on them? How's that going to be handled in court from a constitutional standpoint?
Well, remember, as I often point out, there is the Constitution and then there's the practice.
Yeah.
The problem is, and mind you, I have been on Zoom calls like this with groups from around the country over the past week, and the consensus with lawyers as well. And the consensus is you're not going to get the Constitution. So it's in fact, most of the lawyers think that you have better odds with the dice in a crap game than you do with the courts in terms of something positive from this. Just to note, a lot of these orders, like what the governor has given and so forth, have come from the courts themselves. Texas famously had courts that issued the same kinds of orders. Do you think when they make those orders that they are going to not uphold their orders or overturn them later as unconstitutional and reward people with judgments against themselves?
So I'm just trying to lay this in the framework of a mayor like Brian Hobbs. Who is he going to be liable for any lawsuits as the representative of the city for people in the city that want to sue or whatever?
Well, I would think that he would not be in his particular case because he very specifically did not issue any of the orders.
Okay.
Those who issued orders, the very orders themselves, as we've talked at length, are unconstitutional. And so therefore, they should not only be liable for civil, damages,
right,
but they should be personally liable for fine and imprisonment under 18 USC 241 and 242. They also should be liable for perjury of their oath of office under Article 15 of the Oklahoma State Constitution, and we can go on. There's probably other things that I don't even know about.
Let me tune everybody back in. We've done about 24 minutes here with a little bit of technical excitement. Tommy McKay here, 3D Politics special Thursday night live edition with Brian Hobbs, mayor there in Newkirk, Oklahoma. Brian, appreciate you coming out and sharing some time with us. What do you see going forward here in the next 30 days in Newkirk, Brian?
Well, I think well, it's been discussed just to open the tap back up completely. Of course, we never closed the tap, but more so encouraging the businesses to get back to normal. Again, it's their business; they can handle it how they want. But I just want to, I want to come out at some point soon and say, from the city standpoint, go
green to go.
Yeah.
So Brian, if a family wants to go down to the park and fly a kite, they've got your blessing, right?
Absolutely.
Brian, we've talked. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was just saying, I actually brought that up in the city meeting. I said, what are we doing here? You know, I mean, trying to shut down the park at all. I said, how are we going to enforce this? I mean, you know, and they said, well, you know, we're not going to, you know, basically admitted we're not going to. Then why do we even have it closed? You know, was my thought.
Right.
You know, but we're working through that.
Good.
You know, people are trying to do the best that they can and still be respectful to the, you know, to you know, the I would say the mandates or whatever, but just trying to be respectful to people's health, I guess.
Okay, but wouldn't you agree the nuclear household, the family, if you will, there's no sense keeping them away from each other out in public because they
Nope.
share a house. So if they're down at a park, that's not violating anything, right?
Well, no, and I've actually heard I heard something on the radio, an ad. I assume it's my tax dollars paying for this ridiculous ad, telling people to stay separated in their own home. What? I mean, what? I'm paying for this? I mean, who's in charge of this? It's just so painful sometimes. It's just,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
it just
All right.
hurts.
Well, so anything else you want to add to, it sounds like you're handling it pretty well there in Newkirk. We're waiting with bated breath to find out what GT Bynum does on his budget coming up. So I do know that the taxes are going up. I have a question for you as a mayor. The GT Bynum says that the city doesn't receive any benefit from property taxes, even though on my property taxes, I think it's about 18 to 20% goes to line item called city. Do you have any information on how a city may benefit from property taxes?
I don't know how they do. We don't have that kind of thing here.
Okay.
We don't benefit from ad valorem. I know that there's a lot of push to change that.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people. I know there's some people in my city that would probably like to see that changed. But yeah, I think property tax is unconstitutional in its inception anyway. So
Don't you have a residential rental business, kind of one of your investment things going?
Yeah, we have rentals. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say you probably would not want to be for boosting property taxes.
Well, it's not necessary. I mean, it's kind of a minute tax anyway. It's not a killer.
That's true.
It's all a pain. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. It's for me. It's not about that. It's not about what I own or what I have to pay so much as it is about the fact I've always had this position before I had, and that is if I have to pay the government lease back my rights to my property from the government, I don't really own it. They do.
There you go.
That
right.
extinguishes my ability to actually own anything. And in principle, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I want to let you guys know Kenny Bob Tapp is in the waiting room, so I want to let you know that he is in the waiting room. But before we bring him on, I do want to say Montesquieu is the gentleman who convinced me that some property tax is okay because you pay some of your money to protect the rest of your wealth. That's the area that you encounter the other people that you live near. That is, the reason the police help protect your property is because you pay a certain amount in. That way you can go to town. You don't have to stand guard over your property.
What about the people who aren't in town?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Montesquieu. I'll just say the counter to that is that you pay.
Or the person who says, no, I'm plenty able to protect my property myself.
That would be me.
There you go.
Right. And so the counter, though, to all property taxes being unethical is that certain people pay to protect the other portion of it.
To tax people.
Yeah. I see your point.
To own my property, and we'll have that discussion.
Yeah, you're definitely paying to own. That's true. There's no doubt about the philosophy there.
What the time you run into hardships and you can't pay the taxes, and then they just take everything
There
you've ever
you
worked.
go.
And you don't own. That's correct. And you don't.
And
own.
yet, you know what sickens me even further, but I don't want to go on a rant.
No,
here,
please do.
Is some of the same folks are saying, well, we can't take illegal aliens, for instance, property when they're here illegally. We can't do that. But it's okay to take my property. The same people will be on both sides of that fence.
There you go. That's a good point.
Right. That's a good point.
I mean, so it's like it's okay to do to your American citizens, but we can't do it to people who aren't.
We we have a legal handle on you, so we can crush you legally.
That's the bottom line right there. Is it,
Yeah.
we can get a hold of you, so we're going to squeeze you
That's
instead.
right.
That's exactly it.
Mayor Brian Hobbs, Newkirk, Oklahoma, thanks for being here, and
No
very
problem.
much appreciate what you're doing out there as well.
Thank you, sir. And tell Kenny I said hello.
Okay, we
We
will.
will.
We're going to bring him on.
All right. God bless. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. 3D Politics. We're going to bring on Kenny Bob Tapp. He should be coming on here. Let me see if he's joined. There he is. Kenny Bob Tapp is connecting to audio. Everybody's working on the, oh, good. We got you on the road. Kenny Bob Tapp, Tom McKay here with 3D Politics. Nice to meet you. I think you know David Oldham and David Van. Are you there? It's like having a discussion with somebody I know. Are you there? Kenny Bob, welcome to the show.
He's
Says he's
connecting
still
his
There
audio.
he is. You're live.
Oh, I can
There
hear
he
you
is.
all now.
Kenny Bob, Tom McKay, 3D Politics. Nice to meet you over the Zoom. Do you know David Van and David Oldham already?
Hey, yes, sir, Tom, and a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you as well. Thanks for joining us. We just got off the phone with Brian Hobbs out there in Newkirk, Oklahoma. And so we're welcoming you to the show on a special Thursday night edition of 3D Politics. Tell us what's going on. Now, I have the big question burning in my mind. I think I heard somewhere, you can correct us. I believe it's Boise City in Idaho, but it's Boise City in Oklahoma. Is that correct?
Yes, it is Boise City. Yes, sir.
Boise, there it is.
And is
Final answer.
and is it not, it's not Butte, Oklahoma, but Booty?
There you go.
Is that what I heard the other day?
Boise.
In
It's
the,
important.
I mean, I listened to the entire thing that you were subjected to the other day at the election commission or the election board.
Absolutely, Dave.
And so I heard names of cities that were pronounced differently than I ever would have imagined.
So, Kenny Bob, tell us what's going on out there in your part of the world.
Well, Tom, a couple weeks ago was actually the last day of filing. It was kind of a last minute or a last few days decision, but just some of the things going on in the world and the state. We decided to jump in and run for House District 61.
Good.
So
Nice.
that is all three Panhandle counties. It's Ellis County, a little sliver of Woodward County, and Harper County, and I believe the largest geographical House district in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow.
So we are running for state house, and got a lot of excitement, and got even more excitement after the hearing. People got mad about what happened, and I'm seeing people who want to get involved now that never been involved in politics.
Kenny Bob, let me set this up. Now, you have the filing, and then there's an opportunity if a candidate feels that another candidate is not qualified, they
Sure.
can file a challenge. Now, they have to put up $250 and then have the sheriff serve you papers. And then if you want to defend yourself, you got to put up another $250 as well, right? And then, pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry, David. Yeah, I was agreeing with you. That's correct.
Good. Take us from there. Then what happened next?
Well, we got the summons, and so I'm trying to get my day straight here. Been a long day, long week, but yeah, I think. But I think it was Tuesday. We went down. We went in there. My wife and I showed up before 8 o'clock, and then we went in at 8, and got with our attorney, got him the papers he needed, and so we waited, and we were the last case on the docket, case 8, and so we were. I think. I kind of lost track of time, but my lawyer kind of reminded me how long we were in there. I think there were some cases that went for over 2 hours at least. our case went over 3.5 hours. We started about 5:30 and ended, I think, after 8. If my
Yes.
I can't even.
About 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yes. Now that, do you remember 2 years ago, the last election cycle, Gentner Drummond challenged our own Attorney General, Mike Hunter, over qualifications for residency, and the election board judges decided as long as you're registered to vote in that district, then you count. That's essentially, was that case not brought up as precedent by your legal counsel?
No, David, I had completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
But he mentioned the represent. There was a representative earlier. He'd mentioned that case. I'm trying to remember the representative's name, McDougal.
Yeah.
And my attorney brought up his case, but I wish I had remembered that Gentner Drummond deal. I completely forgot, David.
Yeah, because most of the last 5 years that it requires that he be a resident, he was living in the DC area. But he kept his voter registration here, and they decided, well, if you're a registered vote here, then that's fine. And so I don't even know why it was even a matter of dispute or executive session on yours.
No, I mean, I've participated in all my political issues for well over a decade.
Yeah. Oh, we know that.
Oh, yeah. Property rights issues, etc. In Cimarron County, we've had local things happen here, and we've been involved with community, a bunch of stuff. And my family's been born and raised here. I guess the only thing I'm guilty of is spending many nights across the state line, but
Sure.
but that wasn't. But they saw that and they ruled 3-0 in our favor. But I mean, I have filed taxes for years. I paid taxes here,
Yes.
Registered voter, and I'd read the laws and I visited with people, and I felt very qualified under Oklahoma state statute which governs what qualifies a state representative candidate. And
Okay.
most of my time is spent in Oklahoma at our H3 box.
Well, let me ask you this. You're very active in the Republican Party of Oklahoma and in leadership in the party. I believe you're a member of the state committee, are you not?
I was for several years. When you've seen me there, David, I've carried proxies the last few years. But yeah.
As you know, I'm one of the representatives from Tulsa County on the state committee, and we kind of have a pretty set rule. When you're a party officer, you need to stay neutral in primaries. That's just a good matter of principle. But yet our state legal counsel became legal counsel for your opponent in this. Did he not?
Indeed. He did, David.
Has there been any discussion about that? Did that meeting protocol? What was his deployment towards you personally?
Oh, I mean, it was toward the end. He was gloating and thought he was going to win, and we didn't know absolutely what the outcome was going to be. But I overheard him in a phone conversation. I mean, I think he was making sure he was talking loud enough that he could hear it, because he said, "Oh, Kenny Tapp is scared," and then my attorney messed up on this and that or what, something to that effect, and he said, "We won," and so he was grinning like a Cheshire cat. But I mean, other than that, there was a time where I was walking somewhere in the halls, and he let me go, or I opened the door for him. We weren't hostile toward each other or anything, but then there was definitely an interesting issue when we were 2 out from being heard. He came over and spoke with our attorney, and basically said Kenny Bob steps out now and doesn't go before the hearing, there are definitely people in the Oklahoma Republican Party that want to see him gone. After he's gone and no longer participates. And and then AJ, and then he told my attorney that, but I'm willing to put in a good word for Kenny Bob, basically, and sure that he stays there if he steps out now, and basically doesn't go before the hearing. Well, and AJ looked tired, and I guess he was. I assumed he was ready to go home. I mean, he'd done a lot of pacing, but yeah, that really struck me as odd and unbecoming to someone in his position. I personally felt like,
Exactly.
as you mentioned, David, he's the attorney for the OKGOP, conflict of interest.
Yeah, Kenny Bob, I've been involved in the Republican Party since the 80s in Oklahoma, and I've had those threats given to me several times, and they don't mean anything. The fact is, you can be everybody's friend, and then 2 years later, you're everybody's enemy, and it just cycles like that. That's just the nature of party politics.
Right.
But why was it an important question in the discussion, in the hearings, that AJ asked you, Mr. Ferrati asked you, what you mean by deep state? Was he just trying to prejudice them against you?
Yeah, and I was under oath, and he handed me the statement, so I definitely read it, and I knew that's probably going to happen. But yeah, and so AJ said, well, let me think here for a minute. So he made me read it, and then I got down to the deep state part, and he said, so do you consider, I can't remember if the question was every bureaucracy or bureaucrats or whatever, the deep state? And I said, no, I don't believe that every bureaucrat or every bureaucracy is part of the deep state. I mean, I would say there's probably, I didn't say that there, but I would personally believe there's, definitely members who are part of the deep state, but no, probably not even most in Oklahoma are part of that. But
Sure.
Anyway, and then he said, well, would you say that the election board is part of the deep state? And I said, absolutely not, AJ. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I definitely suspect, I mean, he's an attorney. He was working against us. So I think I would assume, right?
Did he follow it up with, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Well,
sounds like a standard.
Just as an aside, you might, if you ever get to ask that question again, you just say that Bastiat thought that bureaucracy was the deep state. He wrote a book on it.
No, absolutely. And,
my.
But
let me tune everybody back in. If you're just now joining us, we are on a special 3D Politics live on Facebook book version. We've got Kenny Bob Tapp on the line tonight, a special interview to find out what's going on out there in Boise City, Oklahoma. And what have you got for us in the future? What's headed for the future there, Kenny Bob?
Well, I've actually been working today. I definitely plan on getting to work very soon on the campaign. Already began to make calls and reach out to supporters. We have to reach out, so we're looking to hit it very hard. But happening in Boise City, we finally got some rain the other day. We've been we were several years, and we were last year and the year before, but we felt like we were fixing to get out, and then we had a long dry spell again. So hopefully the spring rains will continue. That's essential to our way of life out here. It's primarily agriculture.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on in the campaign, the primary is definitely June 30th. So we're gonna make calls, do a lot of door knocking and mailing. So.
Very good. Van, got a question?
Yeah, you're every bit a part of Oklahoma than any of the rest of us are. The Panhandle is a beautiful and very scenic area, and I love it. Having said that, you live closer to the capital of Colorado and the capital of New Mexico, don't you?
Yep. Actually closer to Santa Fe and then Denver, which I've never actually been to the capital of Colorado or
Wow.
Denver. I've been through Santa Fe several times visiting
Sure.
family back west, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the issues that you're particularly running on? The things that the people of your district are most concerned about?
Absolutely. Well, I am definitely a property rights champion, and that's very near and dear to the hearts of folks out here. Just ensuring that we can continue to operate unregulated. We have seen efforts in the past where like public partnerships, et cetera, for possible zoning efforts that we've defeated. So I'll always on guard there, and I'm when we go to Oklahoma City and represent the will of the people, that will be one of the things foremost on my plate. And I am actually very ardent supporter of life. Not everybody agrees, but I am an abolitionist, and I was very active this year in the SB 13 effort. We saw as many as almost 3,000 people show up compared to right around 1,000 last year. So that will probably be one of the first measures that I author in the House, and then we need to shore up anything for property rights. I am David. I am people out here definitely don't like seeing their taxes go up. So I've been a major supporter. I was not pleased at all, and helped in the petition effort against House Bill 10XX, and that was sold to us. And a lot of our teachers saw through that out here, but I mean, not everybody, but a lot of the ones I talked to saw through that it was a scam. And I heard from and I'm not trying to bunny trail too much, but I heard from a teacher. Her husband are in agriculture, and they struggle to keep their farm going and everything. But as far as she would have to drive every day to go teach, and then what those taxes would be taken in on fuel, whatnot. She said she wasn't really going to see benefit from the teacher pay increase, and I think that's kind of a reoccurring theme. I think we would see in the Panhandle that in the long run that didn't affect a lot of or benefit a lot of teachers, but it excuse my language, but screwed the people of Oklahoma overwhelmingly. So I will absolutely never vote for a tax increase, and that may not be popular with some, because I've told people that position, and they said, well, you got to keep things going, and well, we can. I am a proponent of streamlining government, and I would look forward to working with Nathan Dahm, and I know he's got a lot of great ideas, and people like him. So
sure. Well, I want to say this: having grown up in a rural area of my home, my native state, Minnesota, Hubert Humphrey came to visit one day, the famous former vice president, and he said to a group of farmers that I was hanging with my dad, hauled me out to all these political things. That's why I got this bug. It's from my dad. And Hubert said, you know what? He says, when it comes to getting reelected, the people back home don't care what you know. They want to know that you care about them. Mm-hmm. And that's the way Hubert always talked. And I think that's very true, especially in a rural district that you want to represent, is that you know the people. You might not know all the workings of the complexities of state government, but knowing your people, would you not agree?
Absolutely. Definitely. For the most part, what drives us out here, I've been in one of the key industries out here all my life. That's the ranching industry or agriculture, and so definitely what affects us, what makes people sick. And so absolutely.
Very good. Oldham, you got anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Kenny Bob, you got, how do people get in touch with you? They want to help you out in your campaign. What should we tell them?
Hey, absolutely. And David, we're definitely not going to be receiving contributions from the dark money groups. In fact, they're actually, I'm presuming probably within the next week, we're going to see all kinds of mailers against us with all kinds of information. So yeah, they can definitely go to www.kennybobtapp, that is KENNYBOBTAPP@yahoo.com. And it's going to be vital to get our message out. I always hate to ask my friends and family for money. I mean, I'm one of those that likes to get things done. That at the same time, to run a campaign and get your message out and be effective, especially when you have deep state establishment money flowing in overwhelmingly against you. We got to get that message out, and we're hoping to get some mailers out there then. So if they're interested, I believe there's a button there they can click to volunteer. Most importantly, your prayers. All my fellow believers who are Christians or Messianics, Hebrew. We're definitely a family, and I appreciate your prayers.
Sure.
And then there's also a donation button there, and we appreciate anything. I know times are hard, but heck, if 1,000 people give $20, that'll definitely get our message out a couple times. So.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm disappointed. Just a second, Oldham. You didn't plug your blog, and you've been one of my longtime blogging partners on Sooner Politics. Tell us about your blog, Kenny Bob.
Oh, what's that, David? I missed that.
You've been a blogging partner with me for years. Tap into Common Sense. Got to give them that plug too. Come on.
Yeah, and check out. And I've not been as active as I should be there lately, David. But yeah, check out Tap into Common Sense, and I just Google Tap into Common Sense. It's TAPP. It's a WordPress actually.
Yep.
Space INTO space COMMONSENCE. So, long day.
You go to the next round of the spelling bee.
Exactly.
And also, you're one of the analysts on Sooner Politics. They can always go to soonerpolitics.org, find Kenny Bob on the analyst page.
Well, I have a question. It's more for you, David, because I know Kenny Bob doesn't want to have to address this because it's not good politics. But what were if you remember, do you remember his opponent's Liberty score this last go round? Do you remember where he was at?
That's a good point. I might need to bring that up here real quick. Patskowski, I don't think he made the honor roll. I can say that.
He wasn't in the cards, was he? I don't think he was in the cards.
Right. That would be the honor roll, made the deck of cards. But I'll pull that up for you in just a second here. So.
Okay.
Kenny Bob, we do appreciate you taking the time to touch base with us here on a special 3D Politics Thursday Night Live episode. Again, for the listeners and viewers, we got David Van, soonerpolitics.org, and David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com. I'm Tommy McKay right here, 3dpoliticslive.com. Also, Kenny Bob, before Brian Hobbs, Mayor Hobbs got out of it, he said, make sure and tell Kenny Bob I said hello. So there you go. Hello.
Thank you. Hello, bro.
What do you got, Van? What'd you find out?
He did not make the honor roll. I tell you what, most of them who wouldn't have had a good year because of the kind of bills and the excess money that we had, a lot of them got a much better score than I think they're going to get this year. Would you not agree, Oldham?
Oh, yeah. Failure for just about everybody this year.
Yeah, I'm pulling that score up right now. It's trying to load. Here we go. Freedom Index, all scores. This is
drum roll, please. Yeah.
Patskowski, let's pull him up. He didn't even make, I don't think he made 50 out of it. Let me get down here. Oh, there he is. He's got 40. 100 was the tops. In fact, Nathan Dahm got 110, you know, just to prove us all wrong. But Patskowski got a 40. He did not make the honor roll. He didn't even do as well as Speaker McCall.
Well, Elvis made it to 47. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Kenny Bob, we appreciate you being here. We're going to let you go. If you're ready to go, we'll head you out of here. We look forward to seeing you in the future, and good luck in the future.
Hey, thank you, Tom, and David. Appreciate everything.
Thanks for being here.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for coming. All right.
Great. Oldham, I don't know if you saw the headlines, or did I mention to you about the federal lawsuit that was filed today by Frank Urbanek?
You mentioned it earlier. I have not had a chance to see anything. I've been working all day.
Sure.
In fact, I was supposed to be even later because I was supposed to be interviewed by Channel 8. I couldn't even make that window.
Oh.
I had a 4-hour window to get there, and I couldn't get there.
Well, they need to get in line behind us, right? No, no, listen, if you got on Channel 8, that would have been awesome. But
the idea was to try to do both, but it didn't happen. So
Yeah.
I didn't even make it home to my studio. I'm sitting here in the COVID chase cart just to make sure I could get on.
Yeah.
That's all I could do to get on when I did. So
Good.
Well, I just want to put a announcement. Soonerpolitics.org. It is the headline right now. It's also on Oklahoma Report, our state version Drudge Report. They've got it on top of their page as well. So, and again, as we talked about Monday night, Veneta caved already on theirs once they were hit with the lawsuit. So now this one's against Guthrie, and there may be others to come.
Yeah.
well, and here's the thing: there should be class actions that
Yes.
happen because there was absolutely no consistency. I mean, come on, Brian's
Right.
town of Newkirk did nothing. So the whole the arbitrariness and the capriciousness. I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of the women getting arrested in Idaho at a park because the kids were all there at the park and the woman had a problem. And another one, and they've just got all the parks closed down for no apparent reason. They just close off the parking lots, but then everybody parks on the street and goes and uses the park. I mean, this is, like Obama shutting down the government and therefore pays police to stand there and tell people that the Lincoln Memorial and the veterans monuments and so forth like that.
You can't look at that. It's not available to look at.
I mean, it's that asinine.
Yeah.
Right.
Give my language, but that's what it is.
Well, yeah, meanwhile, that very same weekend, Obama went up to Camp David. He kept that open.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like it was shut down because, they were trying to keep people off. They're just trying to then dictate that we don't have the right to public. I mean, it's like you don't have the right to the air you breathe. You don't have the right.
They're changing what they're changing they're changing the relationship that we have to our government.
Okay, now there's big news happened yesterday, and I think before we leave, we should talk about it, is that Governor Stitt said starting tomorrow, Friday, the other businesses that are more personal care, hair salons, selective procedures, haircuts, all of that's back open. He said,
appointments only. Appointments only for the person.
Well, I know how that works. Yeah, it just means you keep the door locked. Somebody comes up and you say, "Oh, I have an appointment open right now."
Right. Exactly.
There's ways around that.
Mrs. Walk-in.
Unless you're afraid of the cops going out and trying to do stings, they may, because the hairdressers have all been threatened by their licensing board that if they do things outside of the executive order, they will lose their license. That has been threatened. I have been told by more than one hairdresser about that.
In Oldham, Nathan Dom says, thank you, all the more momentum to get rid of the licenses altogether.
That's my point. I mean, I want desperately to have them go to these degrees. In fact, one of the things I was going to say on, if I did get interviewed, was please keep it open. Keep it open. We want you to keep it open. I mean, keep everything closed because we want you to just pile infringement on infringement so that we can make our point.
Okay, so that's tomorrow, Friday. The following Friday is when they're just going to open up basically everything. And there is no, I mean, he's telling people who are at risk demographics to do more, but then he hasn't defined who they are, and there is no such certification. So that's kind of an honor system. So I think in reality, we're pretty much a week from tomorrow, we're done.
Well, except for
once everything gets started tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it starting tomorrow? It's tomorrow. I can go get my haircut finally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as soon as that happens, it's going to, the momentum will grow through the week, and he will have nothing left come the first. And I think people will finally get past their hysteria. And that's what we've been waiting on. I think in the future, a lesson taken from this is we need to start with the protests instantly, no matter what anybody else thinks. Because I think what happened was we were waiting, all too many of us waited for, the hysteria to die down enough. And we should not have been doing that. We should have been protesting for the non-essentials as soon as they were declared. That should
and I want to say this, Tom, this is a principle in politics. Stitt may never acknowledge his appreciation for these rallies. Politically, he probably never will. But that doesn't mean that we didn't play an important part, and maybe even a welcome part, for him and maybe his commerce secretary and certain people who've been saying we need some political capital here.
And you saw that with Trump. Trump was finally get out from under, and that's the case. I know that even Stitt felt the pressure.
Yes.
And from the hysterics, because they were in the majority. They still are.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's fine. Wear your mask. Do whatever you want to protect yourself. That is the right way to think. Protect yourself for yourself. The rest of us, we can maintain a polite distance, and we can increase that polite distance to, 6 feet-ish. But I guarantee you, when I'm working in all these stores, they're telling you, stay 6 feet apart, stay 6 feet apart as you walk in the door. And as soon as you get in, everybody's crammed into the aisles together. And so, the social distancing goes right out the window. And all too many of us are in the habit of shaking hands when we meet each other and stuff like that. So
when we go back to the new flow of economics, unfortunately, the restaurant industry will be suffering probably the greatest amount of burden due to the fact of their business model and the fact that the health department itself has their fingers of control like a puppet up all of the restaurants area. And so unfortunately we can open it up, but the restaurants are going to be under extreme expense through the pressure of the health department to maintain whatever. And don't you know, if you're a restaurant owner that's pro-Trump and anti-shutdown, you'll get turned in.
Yeah.
You'll be the one that gets turned in.
I want to say this right now to my good friend Sean Roberts, who is the chairman of the House Public Health Committee. This is an issue for an interim study this summer, is the behaviors and practices of the health department. They've been a problem for years, and it's time now we have a good scrutiny of the kind of leverage they use. They can destroy businesses, and you have nothing
Arbitrary,
for
right.
recourse.
And remember, and Kenny Bob brought it up. I didn't want to get into it then, but he mentioned that he's against regulation, and in reality, he doesn't mean regulation, as we've often talked, Tom.
Yeah.
He means infringement, violation,
Prohibition.
prohibitions,
Right.
all of the things that a tyrannical government does, and not one who's actually looking out for the people.
Right.
And so that's what we need. We need to start re-looking at all these licensing agencies who create all these nonsensical things, because quite frankly, most of these restaurants have remained open just for takeout. I mean, they've been trying to do whatever they can to keep the doors open. And being out on the road so much, I often am eating out, and so I'm
Right.
getting my food from a restaurant where I look in the window or I'm talking with somebody and nobody in the restaurant's wearing a mask. Nobody is doing anything, and you know what? Nobody's getting sick from all this stuff.
Right.
I certainly can't prove it. And so again, if you're not comfortable with it, don't go out. But if the first thing I'm doing as soon as the restaurant's open is going out and partaking of a beer and some food.
One of the other things that we're going to pay a price on, you can't really even calculate how or when or to what degree, but the changing of units. And what I mean by that is we are living in a tight world of what Jeff Reeser said. We order 200,000 pallets tomorrow or yesterday, and they're here today. And so everything was a very tight unit of measure. And so now that they've jacked up all the supply lines, it's not that we don't have it, and it's not that we can't get it, but they've destroyed the unit of measure. How many you take at a certain time over a period of time. So like when I'm building in the computer, I pick units of measure. I'm either in millimeters building jewelry, or I'm in feet building something a lot bigger. And so we've had our millimeters of distribution built into the consumption. We have units of measure, and those are getting screwed up. And so we're going to pay the price on that coming up in the future.
It'll take a little while for everything to get back to order.
Yeah.
The real problems are the small businesses. They're the ones that got screwed the biggest.
Thinking right.
And that's why non-consent is so important, and non-compliance. We must become a society that is willing to push back against tyranny, and we have not been. We have been all too comfortable, all too long. And non-compliance doesn't have to be violent or anything like that. It's just Gandhi, in India saying, sit down, because we can it's obvious with the right motivation, the economy can come to a screeching halt.
Right.
Yep.
All
We
too
can do
comfortable
that without government and force government to do what we want if people will join in.
Right. All too comfortable for all too long. I think that's where we ought to leave it for now, gentlemen. Way to go, Davids, for bringing on. Thanks to Mayor Brian Hobbs and Kenny Bob Tapp for joining us on the special edition of 3D Politics Live Thursday night. Thank you, David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and David, OldhamConstitutionalGrounds.com. I'm Tommy McKay. We'll see you next time, 3D Politics Live.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.